Is Helga Skittish Seer the new Animar Soul of Elements? Both are 3-mana legends that help us cast bigger and better creatures over time. Both care about counters, and both can be their own win conditions. Animar combos infinitely with Ancestral Statue. Once you have 4 counters on Animar, the statue is free to cast, returns itself to your hand, and makes Animar as arbitrarily large as you want. You can combine this with any effect like Elemental Bond that draws you a card on enters to draw your whole library and start casting free Eldrazi or other large colorless creatures. Helga also combos infinitely with Ancestral Statue or Venser Shaper Savant, as long as you have an effect like Mirren Spy or Chakram Retriever. You can cast a creature that bounces itself, your trigger untaps Helga, while she draws you a card, gets bigger, gains you a life, and makes you even more mana. The bonus here is that Helga comes packed with card draw effects and is her own engine as long as you can keep untapping her. So you can see where there are similarities to these two commanders. While Animar really wants you to be casting colorless spells so they can eventually be free thanks to his discounts, Helga wants you to be playing higher mana value creatures. In the end, both want you to draw your whole libraries. And I will mention it here, but Helga also combos infinitely with Intruder Alarm. Yay, we finally broke Intruder Alarm! With all of that said, let's look at Helga more. She is a BANT-colored frog druid. This 1/3 reads, whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, gain 1 life, and put a +1/+1 counter on Helga. Then you can tap her and add X mana of any one color, where X is Helga Skittish Seer's power. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells with mana value 4 or greater, or creature spells with X in their mana costs. What is not to love here? She's free value on a body, and while she's thankfully no Hulain, she definitely has some of his fingerprints in her design. With so much printed on a single creature that can be in your command zone, let's break down piece by piece as to how we can build around this froggy wonder. First, Helga is a card draw engine. Along the same lines as Garruk's Uprising or Kiora Behemoth Beckoner, Helga is a conditional draw engine. This is fantastic as her trigger is not power based, like the 2 cards mentioned, but is mana value based instead. That means that while a key card like Ancestral Statue does not trigger Kiora or Garruk's Uprising, it does trigger Helga. These kinds of loops are key to drawing our entire library and pumping lots of mana into other effects or just winning outright. Second, Helga is a Soul Sister adjacent effect. Soul Sisters, like Soul Warden or Soul's Attendant, are creatures that gain life when creatures enter. Helga gains life on large creatures cast, but that's just as exploitable. We could be packing the deck with Essence Ward, Suture Priest, and Guide of Souls to be gaining a lot of life, and with Helga's card draw, eventually dig up Aetherflux Reservoir to laser our opponents with all that life. This route can be a little more fragile and would focus more on quantity of creatures over size of creatures, so Helga's mana ability wouldn't be best used here, but it certainly is a path we can build around. Third, Helga gains counters and has a Powers Matter ability. Naturally, there's a lot we can do here, basing our entire deck around counters and counter synergies to allow Helga to ramp us further and further. With effects like Hardened Scales or Ozolith the Shattered Spire, just a single creature is a 3 power, and therefore 3 mana, boost to Helga. Very, very strong. Lastly, Helga's tap ability for mana. This can only be used to cast larger creatures or creatures with X in their mana value. So there's a lot that can be done with Hydras or other scaling creatures like Stonecoil Serpent or Ugin's Conduit. And while the amount of mana generated depends on Helga's power, it is not tied to the number of counters on her. This means anything from Anthem effects to equipment and auras can be increasing the amount of mana Helga gets you. Putting a Blackblade Reforged on Helga can get you a mana dork that taps for 6 or 7 in pretty short order. This mana can't really be used to exploit effects that typically work with mana dorks that make multiple mana, like a Penance Aura or a Freed from the Real, since it can only be used to cast creature spells. But that doesn't mean we can't use untap effects to scale very quickly. Now that we understand all of these aspects that we could be building around, what direction did I take Helga in my brew? Well, I love companions, and since Helga cares about mana value 4 or greater, it's an excellent opportunity to pair her with Keruga, the Macro Sage. This companion forces us to include only spells with mana value 3 or greater, which is perfect for us. Our commander costs 3 and the majority of our creatures will cost 4 or more, so it's a perfect opportunity to have even more card draw tucked away in the companion zone. This does mean that we can't be using Soul Ring or Arcane Signet. We'll have to get creative with our early turns. Evoke and suspend effects like Foundation Breaker, Search for Tomorrow, and Wave Sifter help ensure that we have some things to do before turn 3 while we work up to ensuring we can cast our commander on curve and start making more and more mana. It also means that there's a lot of competition for our 3 and 4 mana value spots on the curve, and we'll often be faced with the question of whether we want to cast Cultivate or Helga on turn 3. Whether it's better to cast a Generous Gift or a Chromatic Lantern, all it's going to be dependent on is game state. Generally, you'll want to prioritize casting Helga when you can follow her up with a bigger, badder creature the next turn. Here, our win con is an empty library. We want to be using Helga's effect along with Beast Whisperer and the Great Henge and similar effects to draw multiple cards whenever we cast any creature spell. This helps us dig for infinite combos, but also helps us dig for our win cons. In this case, classics like Jace Wielder of Mysteries and Laboratory Maniac. Since we're running Keruga, there's no Thassa's Oracle in the deck, but in a non-Keruga version, it's probably a must-have. Some folks don't like the style of win con though, so there are other pivots to consider. You could be digging for a Runati Behemoth Caller to give your larger creatures haste, using Helga's mana to cast all of the big, nasty threats you've drawn like Kogla, the Titanate, Hullbreaker Horror, and Null Drifter, then immediately swinging with them. Surrak and Goreclaw work similarly as well, with every other creature getting a bonus counter and haste once they're on the battlefield, meaning we could be dumping the majority of our creatures into play with haste thanks to all the mana Helga makes. And in a non-Keruga version of this deck, you could be including Concordant Crossroads to cast your biggest, baddest creatures, give them all haste, and bash in for the win. I've included a few effects in the deck to play with Helga's abilities specifically. Court of Garenbrig is one of the best, most efficient counter-granting and doubling effects in the game, and can easily be making Helga tap for 5 mana plus early game. If counters aren't working, then increasing her base power with a Raised by Giants means she can be tapping for 10 mana as soon as you have 6 mana to cast the spell. That's enough to immediately cast an Apex Devastator on turn 5 or 6. And then later, untapping effects like Patriarch's Seal and Intruder Alarm help us chain together Helga activations to enable us to ramp exceedingly out of control. This is a creature-based BANT deck that does not and will not suffer for lack of card draw and resources. It will drown in mana and spells, and even if you aren't casting anything on turns 1 or 2, by turn 4 or 5, you will be so far outpacing your opponents that they won't know what hit them. Let me know what you think of Helga Skittish Seer in the comments, and how you'd build your brew with her at the helm. If you want to check out my deck, it's linked in the description. You can share your deck lists too. Be sure to upload them to my sponsor, Moxfield. Moxfield is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to build around companions with legality detection and warnings built into their interface. It called me out a couple of times and I'm really grateful for it. Check out my profile in the video description along with the full deck list. While you're there, be sure to give me a follow. And while you're here, check out these other videos on the channel. If you were inspired to brew today, you have to hit that subscribe button. It's the law. And as always, folks, good luck and have fun.